Hello everyone and welcome back to another class. Today we are going to be doing a sea turtle and a little girl named Katie. This is for you. This is in my little watercolor, it's a little travel set that I put together. We went to the beach the other day and this is where I was kind of just messing around, doing some practice and everything. So the first thing you'll need to do is to get your basic shape of your turtle in. So look, we have kind of a flattened eyeball shape here. So it's not too much like a football. It's a little flatter. And then we bring down this, we want a little curve here on the front one as it comes back. Because remember, sea turtles have fins. They don't have legs with claws. And then this is the other leg that's going to be kind of dangling down. And then we have this leg here and the back one. And then his head, he's going to be a little flatter on the bottom. It comes off the neck and then it kind of humps up for the head. And that's basically what we need to get the rest of this. We kind of make up. So we'll get started from there. So I'm going to be using some of my sap green to start with. And I'm going to be just doing kind of a staining layer, that and some of my yellow ochre. Let's kind of give him kind of looking for like a muddy green color. And there's a hair. Alright, so I'm just going to do a light layer here on everything. And so remember, as I come around on this shape, I'm going to get rid of some of that color there because that's plenty. This is just my staining layer, so it's going to help me to kind of know where the important things are, so I can kind of plan out from there. There's that shape. Remember, anytime you need to pause the video and catch up with the step, that's the great thing about these classes on YouTube, is that you can do that. So I'm just going to do each leg here. Get his head. I don't want that probably quite as dark. Tail. Okay, so that's the important part. Everything else is going to be just kind of loose and made up. So I'm going to let him dry a little bit because most of what I'm doing in here is going to be, I want texture. So if I do that while it's wet, I'll lose some of that. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in a little bit of some of the greens for my little seaweed down here. So if I use that Viridian green, and then I'm going to bring in some burnt sienna to it to warm it up. And I put a couple different tones in there, so there's not just one bright color or anything like that. So, I don't want to impinge on him too much, so I can kind of put some little tall ones here, make them shorter. Bring some tall ones here. And then if I want to bring a few that maybe kind of come in behind him, kind of plan for that. So I'm just going to do that a little bit, let it dry. And I can go ahead and, like the fish, I didn't really put any detail in there at all. So we're going to start the fish. So I'm going to do the front part of them, which is that yellow. And I've got 5 little fish here. So if I kind of start off, and just kind of do that front part, which is yellow. There. Okay, and we'll let that dry and we'll come in and add the other part. So this is probably safe to kind of start working on a little bit again. And I'm going to take some of my green now, and I'm going to see where I can start to bring in, just kind of give him in a little shape and a little contour. So look, I'm going to bring a little green there on the back of his head. I can tap in a little bit of green here. I don't need to cover the whole fin. I just want a little variety of some different colors. And then up here is where I'm going to kind of loosely kind of put in kind of like some little diamond shapes that kind of come in and fit into each other. And again, I'm not filling in that whole shape. And they don't have to be diamonds. They can be kind of irregular shaped. Okay, and kind of let that dry a little bit and deepen that. The other thing I'm going to do here is go ahead and kind of create that little bit of an edge where this part of kind of comes out like a, almost like a brim on a hat. So we'll kind of leave that little part there lighter. I'm going to bring a little brown into some little parts of his body too. So I'll pick up that burnt umber, and I just need a little bit. I'll blot out my brush. I want my brush to be a little drier. Because all I want to do is just kind of give some little soft textures in here. Okay. So again, I'll bring a little bit along that edge there. I can bring a little bit into his fins. But sea turtles are just so cute. We actually saw a little turtle when we were at the beach the other day, and it was, I'm going to pick up a little phthalo blue and put that in here with this. I'm going to come and add a little bit more to my kind of seaweed stuff going on. Yeah, it was like it was right there where the water was coming back and forth, and it, but the thing was, is it wasn't a sea turtle. It was a land turtle, because he had, you know, claws and things on his feet, and he was just getting beaten up. So maybe he was looking for water, and the salt water wasn't what he probably needed, but we did pick him up and put him back kind of where it was at least a little shaded in one of the areas, so maybe he could find wherever he came from, because he was not going to do well. He was either going to get eaten quickly by the birds that were there. Okay, so here I'm just making kind of a teal color, and I'm just layering that in with the other stuff that I've got. And this is, you know, the thing I like about doing a painting like this is it's not so structured that it's becomes stressful. I just kind of go with it and what happens, and it just gives me time to relax. So I'm going to come back up here to the fish, and I'm going to do a little bit of the cadmium yellow, and here's where I'm just going to, put in your hand there, I'm just going to kind of build out the area where their tails are. Okay, just kind of split it a little bit. These little fish are very implied. Give enough information, they're going to look like fish. People will know that they're fish. And again, we'll let that dry a little bit, and we're going to come back and work on the turtle again. So I'm going to come in and do another layer of the green because I want to strengthen that up a little bit. Let me re-wet these a little. This makes it easier to pull up a little bit of color when they stay damp. Okay. A little bit of that off because I got a lot in my brush. Okay. So here's, I'm just where I've created these shapes. I want to just add a little texture into them. Here along that line. Okay, a little more to his head. So your watercolors are going to dry a little lighter than what you see when you first put them on. So sometimes that you have to wait till it dries till you get enough to see, do I need a little more contrast? Do I need another layer on that? I'd say a lot of people make a mistake where they're trying to go too dark too quick, like they feel like they have to paint the full thing, where really it happens in layers. So we just kind of come back and revisit an area and just kind of bring in a little bit of color. And bring a little bit down in here, there. Okay, I'll let him dry. I'm going to come down and bring kind of just a brownish, let's bring a little burnt sienna into that. Just give us a different tone there. A little more on the, a little bit of that everywhere along there. I think it's important when you're painting that you don't put expectations on yourself, that you expect things to always be perfect, especially when you're learning. I think the important thing is you need to find a place for yourself that you enjoy what you're doing, and don't worry about being too uptight or precise about things. Watercolor is playful. Okay, so my fish are dry enough here, so I'm going to come in and take that black, and I'm just going to give them a little dot on their eyeball. See, now they're starting to look a little more like fish. And then I'm just going to come in and give them a little bit of some black accent. A little bit. Yeah, so now they've got a little more presence there. Okay, I'm still going to give that a minute to dry, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to work on his face. So for the face, I'm going to use the burnt umber, so that's my darker brown. And I can bring maybe just a tiny bit of black into that. So when I'm putting this on, I don't want my brush real wet. And I don't want my paint super wet either. So the key is going to be, getting it where it's a little more inky, a little more intense. When you're trying to load up that color till you kind of get your mix together, I think it's probably good there. What you can do too is kind of blot out the belly of the brush. I don't need to take all the color out of it, but if I get some of that extra moisture out of the brush, it's not going to be flowing as much. Alright, so I've got my little mouth line here. I'm just going to carefully just kind of tap that in and give them a little, little nose hole there. And then Yeah, so make him kind of cute. I'm not trying to be necessarily realistic here. I want a cute little turtle. You know, that makes me happy. Okay, so I'm gonna, when I go to do my watering, I'm going to be kind of working around things. So I want to be careful about the things that might still be wet and touching them too much. So a good watercolor, if I bring that phthalo blue right here in the mix of that yellow ochre and the green, I get a nice kind of warm teal color, and that's going to look really nice for my water. So when I go to put this in, I want to work in where maybe that color's going to be a little more saturated. If I keep a little white space in here, that kind of helps to give the feel, a little bit of movement in the water, rather than filling it all in. Okay, so if I decide here, like I want to make that corner like darker, so I can kind of pull that around and move that around a little bit. And so now I want to keep this kind of a lot lighter. You see, I'm just kind of pulling and dragging. My mixture has been thinned down quite a bit. And I'm just going to kind of come up right next to these areas without causing too much. So I'm going to place them in the water. Show you, let me, if I have time here, but it'll be in my newsletter. But I'm going to share some work that a little girl named Katie has sent me. She's 11 and she's done like all my tutorials I've had so far, and I'm just so inspired by her. She is, you know, I love to see when people find that artistic part of themselves, especially as a kid. That's a gift that you'll have all your life, you know, when you, you know, find the value of what having that kind of creative time means. Okay, so I've done that. Now what I'm going to do here, I've given that a little more time to dry. I don't need to worry as much down in here. But over my sea turtle, as long as he's dry, okay, I just want to give a very faint tinge of my water to him. So it doesn't have to go everywhere. So if you're worried about your face, I can kind of avoid those last things I put in. I'm going to do that here to these fish too. So here's where I have to kind of watch that black so I don't smear it. I think I had a little bit of smearing on that one. What that's going to do is that kind of pushes your fish and your turtle up. See there, I just smeared his eye. It pushes those back into the water, so they kind of become part of the water now. Let's kind of lift that so it's not too bad. So give yourself a little more time to dry. I'm trying to stay within a certain time frame here. But there you have a cute little turtle. I hope that you enjoyed the class. Please subscribe and comment below. That really helps that you know when new content is coming out. It also helps to grow my channel, so I can see, you know, what direction to go as I move forward. But I appreciate you watching, and we will see you at the next class.